Hi guys, Doug here with a new video, and this video will be a discussion video about retail, so Dragonflight, and what could retail actually learn from Season of Discovery. Now, Season of Discovery has been out for since like already 4 months, and now we have like phase 2, and I feel like we could learn a lot of things from Season of Discovery to make retail better. And I feel like if Blizzard aren't thinking about it, I would say if Dragonflight developers or even War Within developers are not thinking about it, that would be a huge missed opportunity for PvP, but also I would say PvE. Now, let's talk really quickly about the things that I feel like Season of Discovery is doing well and what Dragonflight is doing well, and then try to see if Dragonflight could actually have a few of the things from Season of Discovery that could be implemented and making it better. Now, let's talk about Season of Discovery. What do they actually do well? What they do well is, in my opinion, compared to Classic, I would say, just in general, is that they work with phases of leveling, which is hard to do for retail, let's be honest. So I don't think it's going to be able to implement, I would say, per se. But from 1 to 25, that was the first phase, which felt like a twinking phase, kinda. Which I personally, I did like it, but I wasn't really ecstatic. First and foremost, I didn't really like the raid. I felt like BFD was not really that fun. But also, I felt like the Ashenvale PvP event was alright, but the problem was that it felt like a AV, but like 0.2, like version 2, which wasn't really that fun in my opinion. It was fun for a few days, but then I felt like it was a bit repetitive and people were like actively avoiding each other. But then we had phase 2, and phase 2 we had from 25 to 40, which I feel like is a great range. I feel like at level 40 you got like a lot of tools that you hadn't at level 25. PvE is a bit more interesting as well, but I would say for PvP as well. PvE, why? Because there are a few dungeons that you couldn't do at 25, obviously, but iconic dungeons like we have Scarlet Monastery, we have RFD. You could also do other dungeons like harder things. You can also like challenge yourself, and I think Gnomerang is also a more fun experience in my eyes than BFD. Although I'm not really a fan of Gnomerang. At least they made it better in my opinion than what it was previously. They also made a lot of changes like classes. That's also a good thing that they did for Season of Discovery, and that's more compared to Classic. They made a few changes that made that classes are more appealing, like on every level. I would say in DPS wise, people want to play with a feral druid in their group because they have Wind Fury, but they also have great DPS. You also have like a lot of like tanks that are not really only protection warriors. You have protection paladins. You have sometimes some feral druids, which bear form druids, which aren't really that good, but they actually try to buff it. They also try to make Demonology Warlock tanks work. They also try to make Shaman tanks work. They try a few things to make everyone being appealed and appealable throughout the PvE experience. But I would say for PvP as well, I feel like in PvP, the balancing is a bit whack. Let's be honest, there's a few one-shots. I feel like, again, if you look past that, I feel like a lot of specs can do the same things. I feel like any spec, any class can actually one-shot somehow, some way, but because of a cheesy thing or because of a legitimate thing. Take it or leave it. It could be fun or not. I personally like it. I prefer that things die than things not dying. Again, healers are also quite strong, so if DPSers are not that strong, it feels like, again, without dampening, which there is no dampening in Classic, it could make fights way longer. But I like that. What I also like about Season of Discovery, they try to explain changes that they do for classes or for raids or for PvP. They try to actively like balance PvP as well. Like for example, the Blood Moon event in STV is actively like looked upon and trying to make it a better experience. Talking about PvP, I feel like that those PvP events, even Ashenvale, are actually a great asset. Those are events which are timed, so it means that you always have an idea when it starts, and generally, since it is spread out throughout the day, you most likely have the likelihood of being able to participate in those events, which is a great thing, which I feel retail could learn. But I'm going to talk about it on the act 3 of this video. PvP, I feel like having a lot of focus on world PvP, which is like, again, very fun. And I feel like, yes, it is sometimes unjust, but I feel like world PvP should be unjust, should be like a tough world where if you are like solo, you're going to get jumped by 5 guys, but if you have a group of 5 guys, you could actually have some great skirmishes. Again, I come from Dark Age of Camelot, I come from Warhammer Online, I come from even classic vanilla like in 2005 where I played in like EU, that was like the game that came out in 2005, and like TBC and such. World PvP was active, and yes, it was a bit scummy, but I feel like World PvP should always be scummy. And I feel like having also a lot of focus on BGs makes it fun, because I feel like BGs are a more fun environment than arenas. I would say arenas is more competitive, don't get me wrong, but I feel like if you play a game, generally you kind of want to chase for the fun and not only the competitivity. I like the competitivity, but I think you could join both. And I think retail has the tools for that, while in classic you don't really have the tools for that. Like I think BGs, it's mostly for farming reputations, farming like those ranks, for example, which, let's be honest, it has nothing to do with actual skills, but still you have that, and I find it quite cozy to do so, and I found it fun. It just likes the competitivity, and I wish if they actually did like real RPGs, it could be like really popping off, but that's another discussion for another day. Um, but that's what they are doing good at Season of Discovery. I feel like also the runes that you have to chase and like those huge quest lines to get those runes kind of reminds me on what you actually had to do, for example, in retail, like before it became retail, what we have right now. I also like the fact that a lot of PvEers actually want to PvP and vice versa for gear or for other aspects. But I feel like there is more people actually actively going for PvP than right now in retail. I feel like the portion, at least on a PvP server, people know, look, I'm on a PvP server, I'm bound to PvP. Those servers are booming, and I feel like, again, although the numbers of servers are limited compared to retail, I think retail could also learn about it. I think they could merge a lot of servers and try to remake some server identity, which I feel is a bit sad that it's gone. But again, it's more gaming, but I feel like they could work on it. Now, what else? I feel like I talked about seasonal discovery a bit too long, maybe, but I wanted to talk about the good points about seasonal discovery. What is retail actually doing well? I feel like gearing has never been that easy or that clear. You have multiple ways to gear. You can buy in the auction house, you can have honor gear, you have conquest gear. I would say also for PvE, you have multiple layers of gearing, which again, I feel like is what makes an MMO. I feel like you still want to have gear being somewhat relevant, maybe not too OP, but somewhat relevant, because again, World of Warcraft is not a MOBA, and I feel like we should kind of step away from wanting it to be a MOBA, because that's how World of Warcraft came to be. I think World of Warcraft being popular was when gear was meaningful and when actually progressing as a character was meaningful. And I feel like it could learn from a lot of aspects, not from seasonal discovery, because again, with phases, it's bound to be overwritten, I would say. But it would be nice that some gear is actually like expansions level of good and not really only like a patch good kind of thing. It would be also nice again, to have maybe a quest line, to have a legendary weapon for any class, any spec. Like, you want to work for it. Look, there is a big quest line. It takes you into PvP, it takes you into raids, it takes you into Mythic Plus, it takes you in arenas, it takes you in Soul Shuffle. A big quest line where at the end you get a big reward, which is a legendary, which is again a bit stronger what you could have as a conquest gear, but just a bit stronger. Like for example the legendary axe that we have currently in Dragonflight, but I would say take it out of raids, just make it like a real quest line, like something that takes you into an adventure where people would be grouping with each other to try to take on bigger things, for example. But that's again an opinion how they could do better. But it has nothing to do with seasonal discovery or retail, to be honest. But what do they do good at retail? I would say competitivity is very good. I think if you want to have bragging rights, if you want to have like an achievement, like really something tangible, like for example being glad or Keystone Master or whatever, I feel like Keystone Master is not that hard to achieve, but you just have to grind for it pretty much. Doing a mythic raid, for example, those are like big achievements in my opinion. If you can do something about it and you can actually reach that, it's really really meaningful. And that is something that you would not really see in seasonal discovery because everyone can step into a raid and clear it. But that's also like part of the strength. I think being open to everyone makes it also being involved more often than just being on the sideline. But that's another topic, of course. I think Soul Shuffle, although it has its like problems, I feel like it's opening the door to solo queue, which I think is something that everyone wanted, and it's something I would have liked on Wrath of the Lich King, for example, where on the classic version, so what it came like past year, I think. I would have like really wanted a 3v3 solo queue version, so I don't have to sit in LFG on that server where I couldn't really find anyone because everyone is elitist or everyone wants to play like a specific comp that is OP, for example. That's something I would have liked, but it is what it is at the end of the day. 3v3 and 2v2 are fun, I think. I think currently the meta is not that bad. Yes, there are some outliers. I'm thinking about DH, for example, or rogues sometimes, or even resto druids. Like I would say competent rogues. Like I wouldn't say like rogue itself is OP, but I would say if you give the tools to a good player, it would make it OP, for example. But I would have liked to have maybe a bit more changes in season 3. I think like season 3 they just kind of dropped the ball, but that's my opinion. I think they're working too soon on War Within. And I think having the expansions actually last a bit longer with War Within and the like 2 other expansions after it is a good idea, because I think World of Warcraft can't survive on a 2-year cycle. It should be a bit lower, even though you will have to spend more often. I guess it is the drawback behind what we have right now. I feel like a 2-year cycle, you have at least a year or even just a half a year of nothingness, which is what we have right now. We are in February. I am not really excited about March. I'm not really excited about April. I'm not excited about May. To be honest, the only way I'm going to be excited is probably September, whenever we are like very close of the release of War Within. So I feel like they are kind of dropping the ball on it, having season 3 and then a season 4. I think seasons should be way shorter, but it means that the conquest gear should be also faster to be attained. I think being fully geared after a month should be able to be happening, for example, and then you can like go for a month or like month and a half of a season extra after that month of gearing to get your desired rank, and the ranking up would be faster because again, since shorter seasons are there, I would say the inflation or deflation, whatever, is more controlled, and they can actually like have players stay for the whole season instead of like people running away from the season because again they're waiting for end of the season to have the inflation that is needed for their push, for example. So those are the things that I'm thinking about. I think PvE, I'm not really playing in retail PvE. I should maybe, but my channel is about PvP first and foremost, and it's not really that I'm very much like attracted to it, because gearing, I don't have anything to do in PvE that makes me want to PvE to get better at PvP. That's not happening. I think it's better it's for the better in retail, but it would have been probably better for the game if it has some cross from PvE to PvP and the PvP to PvE. But that's another topic, I guess. And those are the good things about retail. I mean, I think also the multiple classes and the differences between classes and how you can be competitive with them. I think it's all right. I think the gameplay itself is fantastic in retail. I think the gameplay is more fun than in Season of Discovery, but I think Season of Discovery has so many great things going on that it actually like makes you like it more. For example, weirdly enough, I don't think like gameplay wise a mage feels better on classic than on retail right now, but a lot of people are liking mages in classic compared to retail. But I think it's like a lot of things that are like intertwined and compared to each other, that gameplay itself is not only the only talk we have in MMORPGs, which I think I agree. Like gameplay is not everything. I think Lost Ark was a fantastic game, but the systems are bad. The PvP environment was bad. Everything was bad. But I think the gameplay was fantastic. But that's not enough to keep me on Lost Ark, for example. I think retail has the same problem right now. What else? Now, what can retail learn? That's Act 3 of the video. We're very close at the end. But what can World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, or War Within learn from Season of Discovery? I think the leveling process, it's very hard to learn from Season of Discovery, because we will never have like a phase where literally you level to a certain level and then it stops and then it comes back with another phase. That's never going to happen. But what could it be learned from classic in general? Maybe a full rollback, like not really a rollback, but more of a everyone starts fresh, kinda like literally next expansion everyone is level 1 and you level to level 70, whatever level it is, and like those are separated servers, for example. And I think it could be we could have fun, like the fresh feeling, but maybe I'm wrong. But I think that could be something interesting for Dragonflight, because people like playing fresh. It feels like everyone is on the same playing field, although it's really artificial because it's very fast on retail. But I think it could be very interesting to play around. What could they also learn from Season of Discovery is the PvP events. I think PvP events are really cool. Having people gathered at a certain hour to a certain hour and have PvP activities throughout the zone. They could actually do that, really. If you go for, let's say, Teldrassil, and the whole zone changes in, let's say, the Blood Moon event, and you have like a lot of raids, like raid bosses here and there, and you have to take them down, and you have to gather and try to destroy the other forces. The only issue I see is faction doesn't really exist anymore. It does, I guess, if you're like trying to find in Group Finder, for example. You're trying to go find these Sparks quest, for example. It doesn't really matter, right? But that's it. You have war mode. They could like really change that, but they will have to work for it. And they also have to want it. I think like a PvP event like the Blood Moon one, or like another one, I don't care, but like a PvP event that really regroups a lot of people from the same kind of mind, which is you want to PvP, this is the zone to PvP for an hour. Like that hour, it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's every 3 hours. So at 12 o'clock, like at noon, at 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m., 12, and then 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 9 a.m., and then 12 again, for example. I think that would be fantastic. But I don't know if they are going to do that. But they could really learn from seasonal discovery. They could really do learn from it. They could also make like again the discovery of I would say the game again, like quest lines, like big quest lines that has nothing to do with money, just purely you have to go there, beat a boss. The boss is very hard. You have to 1v1, have tactics like a mage tower kind of thing, and you go for a next boss, and then next boss, and then next boss. And you try to go for raids, you could try to go for PvP, you try to go for other activities to complete that big quest line. And then you get like a big either a transmog, like a legendary transmog that is really shiny, like something that is really something you can do for a season. Like every season you get a new quest line for that, for example. They could do something like that. It's not really, it's hard, but it's not that hard. They could really do that. And that would also like kind of give FOMO to players to come back. Let's be honest. If you're not playing that season, you're not doing that quest, so you're not going to get that beautiful transmog, for example. But I think that would be keeping players into the game and maybe make them taste a lot of aspects of that game, because I feel like what the retail really likes, at least like lacks, like at least for even for PvE but also PvP, is a real like not a tutorial but like you want to do that activity. For example, if you're leveling to level 70, you're not aware about soul shuffle, they're never going to give you like do soul shuffle, like try to do soul shuffle. They're not going to push you to that environment, right? They're not going to say, look, you have to do soul shuffle because it's going to be cool. You have to do that because it gives you a new transmog, new activities, new fun, whatever. They're not going to do that. If you don't know about it, you're not going to do that. The same for Mythic Plus, to be honest. They're not going to say, look, you have to do Mythic Plus. No, you're level 70, you're kind of thrown into the wolves. Like if you know nothing about Mythic Plus, well, you know nothing about Mythic Plus. You have to literally find videos, outside information to start your Mythic Plus journey. Except you could also go into the group finder. It will give you new season, whatever. It explains nothing about Mythic Plus. I think something like that could be very nice. I think World of Warcraft is really behind their time. It's 2024. You have to kind of handheld the player base towards the activities that you want as a developer to spend their time. If you want to push PvP, you kind of have to shove PvP into their faces somehow, some way. If you want them to do Mythic Plus, the same. If you want them to do raids, the same. But I feel like right now you don't have that. You have like daily quests or weekly quests, but it never really explains how to do that. Like personally, I know nothing about Mythic Plus. I know you need keys or whatever. You need a group, and you have to go there, then press here, and then into dungeon difficulty, go for Mythic. That's the only thing I know. But I'm a player that plays since 2005, so obviously I will know that. But people that are new to the game, they're not going to know that. They're not going to know you have to press right click on the portrait and then go for dungeon difficulty and then go for Mythic. Boom, dungeon difficulty set to Mythic. But nothing is explained towards that goal. It's really weird, right? But I could talk about hours. I'm not a PvE guy, by the way. I'm a PvP guy. I want PvP to be better in retail. I want it to be very popular. But it feels like in seasonal discovery you have way more activity and way more people going for PvP instead of like in retail where it feels like a afterthought. And that's really how I feel right now. But anyways, I wanted to talk about that. I feel like if they could actually learn from seasonal discovery, like the little things, but also the bigger things, it could go a long way. But also Dragonflight could, or while within, could actually have a lot of utility to have the players actually pushed towards the content that the developers really want us to do, and not really have players learn from other players. Like that's cool. Peer-to-peer learning is great. Like again, I'm a content creator, so I like that people jump on my videos to learn something. But I feel like Blizzard could actually keep more players if they actually put some effort themselves into the game. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. We do retail content, mostly PvP. We do some season of discovery content on this channel, but also on the second channel. Although the second channel, I don't really know what I want to do with it, but still, this content is purely World of Warcraft PvP. So be sure to subscribe to that. If you like discussion videos, chill lists, whatever, guides, this is the place to be. So again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Be sure to stay safe. We will catch each other probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.